COVID-19. COVID-19.
So my name is Scott Kinder. I am the owner of Harlem B&B. We are a guest house here in St. Lawrence Gap. I live here with my wife Ruth and my son Rico. I've been in Barbados for almost 30 years. I was originally brought to Barbados through a previous relationship, mother of my youngest two children, the youngest of whom is 25 now. She originally brought me down here. I slowly but surely fell in love with Barbados and the people, and decided some number of years ago that I wanted to have more of a life here and wanted to retire here, but more importantly wanted my children to have more of a legacy in Barbados than just a family house, and so decided to look for some business opportunities here, and I found this place, which was consistent with another business that we have in New York by the same name, and so it just became a natural fit when we found this property, and the rest is history.
COVID.
So, as it happens, you know, COVID started to unfold basically in January in America. I was in New York at the time. I came back in February for my wife's birthday, and then typically we travel every year around her birthday, which is the day before Valentine's Day. So we're usually in Canada for her birthday and Valentine's Day. And we had plans to travel, and things were kind of unfolding rapidly in New York and becoming precarious. Well, it started with the media reports in January, and then everything escalated very quickly. We had plans to be in Canada at the end of that first week in March, so we went forward with that. As it happens, I think we arrived in Canada sometime on or about the 9th of March. By that Friday, done. So we were in Montreal. We drove up to Quebec City for the weekend. We had plans to spend the weekend. We got to Quebec City, it was a ghost town. Total ghost town. I mean, literally in a matter of 2 or 3 days, Canada went to a shutdown, basically, right? But so that was it. We were in Quebec City for that weekend. So we came back to Montreal. There was almost immediately like problems, you know, getting our flight. We were traveling separately, but for my wife to get her flight back here to Barbados became increasingly complicated. And by the time we had sort of had the opportunity to really reconcile everything that was going on, no more flights. So we ended up staying in Montreal for 3 months. And we had planned on actually staying longer, except that the embassy, the Barbadian embassy, had contacted us, and that a repatriation flight had become available for my wife. So we drove from Montreal to Toronto to put her on a plane to come back, and then I went back to New York.
COVID.
So some frontline workers are absolutely heroes. I think, you know, there is a tendency within our establishment to sort of raise everybody, you know, on the same platform and on the same level. But I think clearly within the community of frontline workers, there are people who are confronted with a lot more risk than other people. I think that, you know, people who, in the face of a lot of medical uncertainty, and, you know, and before a virus was a realistic goal, were exposing themselves to the virus and to these patients, and then obviously to their families and everything else. So I think there is a collective level of heroism amongst the frontline community that was being directly exposed to the virus. I think law enforcement, who both has to potentially deal directly with COVID in the administration of their duties, there have been sort of micro acts of heroism. So I think that a lot of people have been compelled. And so I think anytime you kind of walk into the wind like that, there's a certain element of heroism attached to it. I would hope over time that just becomes human nature more than heroism.
COVID.
COVID has impacted us economically for sure. Obviously here in Barbados, things shut down very quickly. Once things kind of shut down, here we were completely empty. We had worked very hard to be available and affordable to local people and Barbadians in general. And that just dried up completely. Obviously, there was no traffic coming into the island. So we went completely empty for 7 months. Still had to pay our bills, still had to do everything. Then finally, around September or so, we were fortunate to become an approved quarantine accommodation. It was actually very slow evolving, but I would say by November, December, there was some consistency to it, and it absolutely made a difference. So, but it's been hard. It continues to be hard. We've had a lot of regular people who, whether because of the restrictions in Barbados or restrictions that were placed upon them locally, whether it's United Kingdom or Canada or wherever, they've canceled their plans completely. So all of what we used to know as regular business is gone.
COVID.
So I think at a minimum, we want to see what the global response is and what the local response is to a wider spread distribution of the vaccine, how that changes travel. So I can tell you that, the experience of the last year makes an off-the-grid life very appealing, right? So, and that's something that the experience has us considering, right? Do we really want to be dependent upon a tourism-dominated business and economy when we've seen how fragile that really is? We have to look at different ways where we might have to repurpose ourselves. You can't rule anything out, until you do. So right now everything's on the table, but our priority for now is just to stay in the game as long as possible.
COVID-19. COVID.